Hi there. I'm gonna turn off my music, listening to Stevie Nicks, the witch of all witches. Hello. How is everyone? Today we are doing a live streaming on YouTube. We are having an event called Ask Me Anything. This is the first time we've done this. So I'm going to explain a little bit about myself. My name is Anya. It's Anya. It's Gaelic, so it's spelt funny. But I run SerenWitchery. My name of my company came from the word serendipity. It was a play on it that I got it. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Lucas. SerenWitchery is where I provide all of the services and products that I make or provide. I am a tarot and a crystal ball reader. I'm also a Ouija board person. I'm considered an expert here in the Northwest about Ouija boards because I'm one of the few people who will work with them. I'm also a Reiki master. I do what's called amplified Reiki, where I utilize my tuning forks during it. So you can basically ask me any questions where it has to do with any readings, or if it has to do with what I'm doing, or, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start off with the first question that we had from Cynthia. And that was, what was your most magical experience of doing magic? And what was the result? And I'm assuming you also meant, what did you learn from that result? Let's see. My most magical experience. One of my most magical experiences was my first ritual ever. I had just gotten done reading Scott Cunningham's Solitary Practitioner Guides to Wicca, and he has an outline for how to do your first ritual, and so I followed it. I went to Fred Meyer's and I got tea lights. I cannot burn a lot of different incense because of my asthma and my allergies that I have. So, like, for example, I'm allergic to sage. It shuts my lungs down and I can't breathe. My lips turn blue. So I had an oil burner. So I went out and I bought a bunch of tea lights for him. I bought a big package from Fred Meyer's. And I put one in my burner. That was my air, because it was the steam coming up, the oil being suffused into the air. And I did it for a ritual of protection for my home, my family. My children were very young at that time. They were both under the age of 10, I believe. And so I set it all up, put all the little tea lights in, lit the candle underneath the oil burner, went and did my ritual, big circle around my property, because at the time I lived in a house with my ex-husband in Kaiser, and it was on a quarter of an acre. So I walked the whole perimeter with my kids, and we did some magic. And when I came back, in my oil burner candle, the candle in and of itself had a spider in the wax, actually frozen in the wax, and it was burning till the wax had melted, and then you could see that spider clear as day in the middle of that candle. Well, I immediately was like, okay, why a spider? Because spider, After doing some research, I found out that it is a Native American goddess called Grandmother Spider, and that she was offering her protection, and finding a spider after a protection spell lets you know that Grandmother Spider has helped you in your ritual and you are protected. What did I learn from that? Magic happens instantaneously, whether we know it or not. So no matter what we do, magic is working. And when we put that forth, it happens even when we least expect it. And magic is really good at being the one thing that saves us when we least expect it. So that was the only question that I got so far. I also get other questions. Oh, here we go. A question that Shannon has had is can you explain how you started learning about Reiki, specifically the chakras and how they work together? Sure. First of all, I learned things a little bit backwards. Ugh. I actually learned Tantra, and I learned the chakras through the Tantra before I went into Reiki. What I didn't know was I was already doing Reiki. I just didn't have the vocabulary words for it or the Reiki vocabulary for it. But I was doing Reiki. When I learned about the chakra system, I actually learned them through my Tantra class. And now I teach the chakras in Witchcraft 101. I also have a workshop called dancing your chakras clean, or something along those lines. And what we do is we basically use dance and movement to release the old energy. How do chakras work together? Chakras are a part of what I see or perceive as a circuit board. So you have your crown, your third eye, your voice, your heart. At the base of your breastbone, you have your power or your solar plexus chakra. Then down below, right below your belly button, is your sacral. And right in between your physical anatomy for a feminine and male person down there, and in between the buttocks, where there's that little piece of skin in between, that right above that inside of your body is where your root chakra sits. When your chakras are working properly, you should be pulling energy from the kiffer, or the outside, the universe, through your crown chakra. And it's supposed to travel down through your chakras into your feet, legs, down out your feet, and then they pull back in from the earth, up your feet, up your legs, and then it lights up your chakra as it goes back out. So it should, for me, it appears like a circuit, constantly moving. If one chakra is having a problem, it can impact the whole system. If you have a solar plexus problem, hi, Kat. If you have a solar plexus problem, it's going to impact your heart chakra and your sacral chakra, because it impacts the chakra above and below where you're having the problem. Because again, it interrupts that flow of energy, because that flow of energy is what we have as far as pulling things in from the universe or the gods or the goddess, choose your deities or spiritual practice here. Pulling in that energy and then giving it to the earth and allowing it to flow back up through us to the universe again. So it almost works as a circuit, if that makes sense. So I hope that answered that person's questions. And if they need more information, or if they want to ask more questions, they can contact me through email, phone, social media, all the stuff. So I have a lot of questions that I am asked on a regular basis. So until I can see another question pop up. Oh, I see another question. Yay. What are your views on the threefold rule? I see a lot of debate on it in various groups that I'm in. Yeah, that's a debate. It is. It's a hot button. There are some people who practice witchcraft who do not believe in the rule of three. I have practiced magic for almost 30 years, and I can tell you I have watched the rule of three happen. Now, is the rule of three happening because I believe in it? Could be. I believe that there's a balance. For what you give, you get. What you give is what you get back. So if you're going to put out nastiness, it's going to come back to you. I am myself personally, because I believe in accountability. I believe in the threefold law. And the threefold law, for those of you who have never heard of it, the threefold law is when you send out any energy, it comes back to you 3 times 3 times 3. Kat is asking, is it the same like arguments on the left hand and the right hand of past? Yeah, exactly. It's all perspective. There's some people who don't believe in karma. I've watched it. I believe in it. Because I saw it happen even before I knew it was named karma, or before I knew it was called the law of 3. My mother called it getting what you were giving. And so did my dad. If you're going to give people crap, they're going to just give you more crap back. But again, a lot of it is, the same argument can be made for witches who don't live sustainably. And that's where there are witches who are on the very far left side or right side of witchcraft. And that is you make everything yourself. You don't use plastic. You recycle everything. You lower how much trash you're putting out, which is great. That's an awesome thing to do. I know that my brain can't do that because I'm neurodivergent. I have ADD, ADHD, or what's better known as executive functioning disorder. So for me to be that, I do my best. I do. I recycle. I try to throw away as little as possible, but I also live in an apartment, so I can't compost. So there is that pendulum swing in witchcraft or in paganism or the path of a witch, just as much as there is in the Abrahamic religions such as Christianity, Judaism, and Muslim. They have what you give, you give. God gives back to you what you put out. It's very close to the threefold law. So my personal stance on it is not only is it real, you should really pay attention to it. But that's me. And everybody is different. That's the one thing. That's one of the reasons that witchcraft is continuing to increase by quintupled numbers every year. It's because it's personal accountability. I don't have to have someone as a go-between for me and my deity. I do that. So it's all individual. Cynthia asks, do you know how many different types of entities there are? And do you study each one of them or just the ones that call to your attention? That's a great question. Lucas, I hope I answered your question about the threefold law. I don't want to overlook that. Cynthia, there are several different types of entities. Yes, there are hundreds of, oh my God. Every culture has names for their own entity. A lot of those entities are called different names, but yet if you look at the definition, it's really the same thing. So did I study each one of them? Usually I would study them as I came into contact with them. So for example, a shadow figure, I didn't really do research on shadow figures. My mom did because I saw shadow figures when I was little. But I've learned more and more about them now that I'm an adult. So shadow figures are different than ghosts, are different than wood nymphs or dryads or fairies. Sometimes I'll be really interested in an entity and I'll learn all about it. And then within about, I'd say 2 or 3 months, boom, I've met one and I've come into contact with them. Sometimes I come into contact with them completely unexpectedly, like the reptilian race down in Arizona. I came into contact with them quite by accident, but it was a very lovely interaction. So there are lots of entities out there. It also depends. There are some entities that the Norse pantheon truly believe in, that, for example, the Japanese or the Asian culture may not see that as an entity. They may call it something else. So it really just does depend. Is there an actual number? Not that I'm aware of, but there could be, that I just haven't learned about that number yet. So another question: does every witch have the ability to sense entities? Can that ability be learned over time? Yes and yes. You're very welcome, Cynthia. Thank you. Yes, every witch has the ability to sense entities. It's whether or not they can see them, hear them, communicate with them. But most people who have been working on their witchcraft, working on their self-awareness, a lot of the ability to see entities is to know your own self-awareness, to know what your voice is saying, and what is that other voice saying. Wait a minute, who does that voice belong to? I'm by myself in this room. Where is that voice coming from? So you kind of check in with yourself. Is that me? Is that someone else's thought? We learned about that in our energetic warding class, or our psychic self-protection. So, and a lot of people will have different abilities. So, for example, not only can I see and hear them, I can talk to them, and they can talk to me. We can actually have a dialogue. When I was younger, I'd have a dialogue with an entity or a ghost and not even know it wasn't a real person. I thought it was real. So if you can hear them, great. If you can see them but not hear them, that's okay too. But you can work on honing that. And even at some point, if you get to the point where you can't hear them, you can come up with another way of communicating with them. Like 2 thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, no, maybe. I don't think so. I mean, just so you can pretty much make up, whatever kind of communication. If you can't hear them, but you can see them and you know sign language, you can talk to them in ASL. With them being over on the other side, they actually pick up the energy of what you're doing and can translate it. So just depending on how you do it, can you hone those, and can the abilities be learned over time? With my experience and what I have seen, the answer to that is yes. For me personally and my students, I can say yes. For other people, I don't know. Again, witchcraft is very broad in general, but it is also very personal and very individualistic. So a lot of times it just takes time to hone that sense. So, there's other ways you can work. If you work with a pendulum and a pendulum board, that is very similar, if not completely the same, as a Ouija board. The only difference is you're using a pendulum instead of a planchette. So knowing those kind of things can help you to hone those things, even as far as, okay, I'm going to shuffle these and I'm going to set them here. And then you make the communication for the card so we can communicate. And then the first one you pick up is the one that they put there so that you guys can communicate. So there is a way to hone it. You just have to work on it. Does that make sense, Shan? Excuse me. Okay, good. Okay. Lucas, how do you prepare yourself when you make your potions and spell jars? Do you have a focal point that you use, or a specific meditation to draw on the energies? Well, that's a great question, Lucas. Thank you. How do I prepare myself? What I do is every morning when I come into my apothecary space, I immediately cleanse, dedicate, and sanctify my apothecary. It's always done. Every morning when I come in. So I'll get to your question in just a second, Kat. I do see it. So my room has already been cleansed and sanctified. When I'm working on a spell, my focus is on the spell that I'm making. So for example, if I'm making Cayenne, which is one of our best-selling protective oils that we have, whether it's in a roll-on or a spray, I am repeating the spell that is in that as I say it. So I have to get my book out and pull it out because I believe at current numbers, I have about 50 blends. So I have to follow my spell book or my recipe book or whatever you want to call it. I call it my spell book. The focal points that I have are different depending on what I'm making. If I'm making the gazing potions, these are to settle the mind, to understand that what you're hearing or the thoughts that you're having are passing thoughts. We're just letting them go by because we're focusing on our intent. Then the gem elixirs, depending on what it's for. Is it for the anxiety? Is it for spiritual growth? Is it for depression? I'm focusing on those intents so that this is to alleviate the depression or the anxiety. So I'll use new moon water for that. So a lot of it is also using magical things to make it happen, to draw on those energies, because I'm drawing on the metaphysical properties of whatever I'm putting it in there, whether it be mica for the gazing potions, whether it be oil for the oil potions, or whether it be the distilled water, the gem waters that I use for the gem elixirs. That's what I'm focusing on in that moment. When I'm all done, when I leave, I say thank you to the entities. And I already have it set up in my apothecary that when I leave, all of my protections, all of my guardians are on, they're on alert, but they're not really like at attention. They're keeping an eye on stuff because I have other warding around my apothecary. So that gives them time to rest and relax, and they don't have to be overburdened. So did that answer your questions, Lucas, I hope? Okay. Kat, Yepers. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Lucas. So, Kat, I know very little about palmistry. Very little, that much. Okay. When I was learning palmistry about a decade ago, okay, let me read Kat's question. I'm sorry, I got distracted. I had a client the other day that came in asking about the crosses on her hands and was telling me that others she had talked to wouldn't read her palm or tarot cards because of this. Why? They're dumb. I understand that if there's a cross in your palm, you may be a witch. So for example, I don't know if I can get the right light here. So if you see how these two there's like an X in here. I don't know if you can see it with the light and stuff, but it basically is supposed to mean you're a witch. If someone looks at your palm and says they won't read your tarot cards or whatever because of something on your palm, oh, for the love of God, please give them my card. Because that's just, oh my God. I don't know anything about it. So yeah, I had, even in the research I had done, I had never heard of any, oh, don't touch that person. There is no such thing as an untouchable. That's a perception of privilege. So even witches can be privileged. And they need to understand that magic is magic, regardless of where it comes from or who's doing it. It's magic nonetheless, and it needs to be respected. If they can't do that, they're not the practitioner to hang around with while you're doing magic, because it's going to backfire and it'll bite you in the ass. So no, I've never heard of that, Cat. And so yeah, I agree with you. Definitely just needs to learn a little bit more, but I know several palm readers that are like palm readers. I've never heard of them turning down a reading because of someone having a cross in their palm. Not once, not ever. And I've known a woman who's done it for over 25 years. So, all right. And then we have, I hope that answered your question, Kat. The next question we have here from Cynthia is, what is the most powerful lesson you have learned from each goddess and god that you have worked with on your witchcraft journey? Good. Wonderful. Thank you, Kat. Wow. That's a great question. Cynthia, so many of them. Oh my God. The first lesson I learned was how to step away from what I had been taught as far as judgmental ideals. The first one that really came to mind was right after I had been learning my witchcraft. I'd only been doing it for maybe a decade at that point. And I was one of those militant witches. Don't wish me a Merry Christmas. I do not celebrate Christmas. I mean, I was an angry witch because everything in my life had been dictated by Abrahamic traditions. So I wasn't doing that anymore. So one day I was at a pizza parlor with my daughter and my son and my grandchildren, and the kid popped off with Merry Christmas, hat, all this stuff. He was trying to be nice, jovial. He was trying to interact in a positive manner. And I was a Karen. And I looked right at him and I went, yeah, I don't celebrate Christmas. I celebrate Yule. And he looked like he was going to cry. And I went, and it caused me pause. And I heard clear as day, same holiday, different vocabulary. Oh, I need to honor their spiritual practice as much as I'm expecting them to honor mine. I got it. But it was an eye-opener for me. So if a person, and it also helped me realize that as a former sign language interpreter, I need to use the target language of the person I'm talking to. If they say Merry Christmas, I say Merry Christmas back. They say Happy Hanukkah, I say Happy Hanukkah back. Happy Kwanzaa back. I just say Happy Holidays now. There are 195 religious practices among the world. And a lot of them have celebrations in December around the Yule season or Christmas for the Abrahamic traditions. So learning that I had to treat them with respect was a good thing to have. Thank you, you too, is what I grew up with. Yeah, you could say something like that. But to me, it was an energetic slap. And I had to realize that they weren't energetically slapping me. They were patting me. I was perceiving it as a slap. And the goddess was the one who came out and said, we don't play that. We don't do that. Knock it off. Another lesson was that no matter what you put into your community as the leader, the minute you walk away, you better know you're walking away alone. Because as the leader, you had power. When you walk away from that position, you are no longer useful to people. You don't have power anymore. Well, the thing is I still have power. I just don't have community power. And that was something that because I expected all of those people to still stay in contact with me and still like, hey, how you doing, Anya? Hey, there are some people I haven't heard from since I retired from my position on the board that I served on. And that was a real lesson to me from my goddess saying, hey, just because that position of power is over doesn't mean your power is over. And then how many gods and goddesses have I worked with? I grew up in the Catholic religion. So I had a whole lot of God. So when I started working magic, when I first started doing witchcraft, I did not want anything to do with the God until in my book, it was explained that you can't have balance without masculine and feminine. So with the research, as I learned about witchcraft, with the research I did, I found out that Mary, in the very beginnings of the Catholic Church's establishment, Mary was not a big player in that scene. But the Catholicism, the Catholics, couldn't get the new religion people to change their ways of thinking about having to have a feminine part in it. So the Catholics said, okay, you want feminine? Here's Jesus's mother. Here's Mary. Now you have a feminine divine. So for the first few years that I worked in magic, I would research the goddess I was working with. I would find their husband or who they were married to. And then that is usually the god that I would work with. The gods are normally pretty silent for me because I was so indoctrinated with the masculine deities. So male witch, okay, we'll get there in just 1 second. Balance is very, very important. We should have just as many male witches, warlocks, sorcerers, wizards. Pick your name. That's another one that's a real hot button. Boy, witches aren't warlocks. You know what? You're not really a witch then either. You choose that name, you take on that mantle. We are right now in the middle of a transformation of respecting a person's identity. If a male witch says he's a warlock, that's what I'm going to call him. My husband is a trained wizard, and he calls himself a wizard. So if you want to call yourself a warlock, you want to call yourself a witch, that's completely up to the male magical being who claims that label. So that way, male witches are extraordinarily important. We have a lack of them in our community. We hurt for them. For every 10 women at festival, there's one man. Easy. We need more males. Problem is, toxic masculinity doesn't like witchcraft because the entity or the divinity that you focus on equally is a feminine divinity, and most toxic masculine men, okay, let me make that clear, toxic masculine have a problem with sharing deities that are feminine. So there's a lot of that toxic masculinity that's been taught in the Abrahamic religions that when they come out to the pagan or the witchcraft or the gatherings or the festivals that are had, they're a little taken aback at how off-kiltered it is and how the women, it is a matriarchal spiritual practice. Most of the time, the women are in charge. There's a lot of men that can't deal with that. They don't like that. Again, that goes back to toxic masculinity. Now, my husband's a wizard. I know many magical folk who call themselves warlock. I know many who call themselves wizards. I know some witches who call themselves sorceresses or a sorceress. Okay. So it's an identity label, no different than he, she, her, him, they, them. It's an identity marker for you, and it's what you choose. Yeah, exactly. You're a Virgo, so you're all about the feminine. So you understand that need for that balance. But then if you look at a male who has a masculine sign, like let's go with like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, fire signs, there's a lot of those males who do not like females in power. So that's why there's that little bit of offset with that. But I mean, male witches, I think they're just as important as any other witch who claims the label. So, all right. Are there any more questions? And if not, I have a couple that I get asked a lot that are like basic common questions that I can answer as well. I've been asked several times, what's the difference between a crystal ball reading and a tarot reading? What I tell people is the crystal ball has images in it for me, the practitioner, the reader. The tarot cards have pictures for both of us. You can see the picture on the tarot cards. You can't necessarily see what my crystal ball is showing you or what it's showing me. I also have to warn people, and I'm not kidding, this is one of the funniest stories. I was at Halloween Town giving a reading, and a gentleman came into my booth, and he sat down and said, I want a crystal ball reading. I'm like, okay. So I set my crystal ball out. I got everything ready, and I'm like, okay, what's your question? And he goes, well, I'm just going to talk to the ball, and it'll talk to me, right? No, I don't understand. What's your question? He's like, well, it's like the one at the Haunted Mansion, right? No. There is no video projector underneath my table that's going to flash a movie of a woman's head speaking in rhyme through my ball. No joke, y'all. He stood up and went, well, this is dumb. I'm not doing this, and walked away. So the difference yeah, right? Exactly. Oh my God. Cynthia says, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, exactly. My husband was with me, and as he walked away, my husband turned around and looked at me like, I was like, so when I give crystal ball readings at events, I will tell people, I want to let you know that my crystal ball is not like the one at the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. A head is not going to pop up and start speaking verse to you. 9 out of 10 people laugh. The 10th person gets disappointed and walks away. I am not shitting you. So, just so you know. So we have a little bit of time left. I see that we have a couple of newer viewers online, so I'm open to any questions. You can type them into the chat. I will read them aloud so that you can all hear the question. What kind of potions do I make? I make all kinds of potions. I also make spell jars, which are where you put the ingredients inside the jar, and then you put that jar on your altar. You can use the stuff inside of it if you so choose, but when I make that spell jar, it is for the intent that you and I both discussed. The reason that I offer a lot of the products that I do is because I have invested a lot of money in supplies. I have a lot of oils that some of them are hard to find. I also have stones. I don't sell those here. And people ask me why, so I will explain. I rent my space from inside the witchcraft shop called If the Broom Fits. Debbie has an amazing shop out front, and it's full of stones. We don't compete with each other. If I carry it, she doesn't. If she carries it, I don't. Now, there are a few things that we do kind of double over on, but not much. For example, I do not sell my bath salts in my apothecary. I do have them, and I will sell them to you, but you have to come in and ask for them, because I can't just have them on the shelves because Miss Debbie, she has them out in the front of her shop, and we can't compete with each other. So I hope that answers some questions about potions. Oh, we got a new question in. Kat, how does a witch gain a familiar? They come to you. 9 out of 10 times, the stories that I have heard about familiars is because the animal will show up at the right time, at the right place, at the perfect moment. For example, I'll tell you about my familiar Aurelia. She's a ginger cat. She is female red cat, which is unusual. She has amber-colored eyes. Again, very unusual. She's Bengal. She's soft. Okay. Now, We lived in an apartment complex where there were feral cats everywhere, and some asshole abandoned their Bengal female cat without getting her fixed on the apartment complex grounds. So, as you could imagine, in the spring and fall, we were overrun by kittens. There was one orange cat that I kept seeing hang around our place. And I noticed that the children in the apartment complex were abusing it. Now, mind you, I thought it was a male because 90% of all ginger cats are males. And I've had one before, and it was a boy. So I thought, oh, this poor little boy, he's going around and these kids are abusing him, chasing him with sticks, baiting him with food, spitting on them from their window because, well, she's even under my window. So we had discussed, my husband and I, getting a cat from our teacher, Cleta, because she has a cat that just had kittens. I had already picked out my cat. Hadn't picked out a name, but I had picked out my cat. We both had. The morning we were supposed to go get that kitten, that orange cat was hanging around me and meowing. Now, I knew it was feral and it wasn't getting fed. So I left the door open and I offered to let it come in. And so I said, do you want some chicken? Because I had some chicken left over. And I tore it up and I put it in a bowl. I turned around, set it on the floor, turned around, put the chicken away, washed my hands. And when I turned around, the bowl was empty and the cat was gone. And I thought, well, what, she'd leave? So I ran outside, no sign of the cat. I'm like, well, okay, I guess she's done. That was how do you do? Right? Close the door and I immediately hear a from my spare room. And I'm like, what is vibrating? So I go in there. She made a little nest and laid down in it. And she was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm home. And I was like, we were supposed to get another cat today. What the hell? We got to our teacher's house, Miss Cleta. And I said, Miss Cleta, I'm really sorry we're late, but this is why. And I explained everything that happened. And she looked me right in the eye. Now, Cleta, I respect tremendously. She's an amazing, amazing witch and teacher. She is, I hold her of high esteem. Looked right at us and said, that's your cat. That's your familiar. You called to a familiar and your familiar found you. Your familiar will always find you. Something serendipitous, something very kinetic or blessed will happen. It's going to be, wow, what a coinky dink. When in all actuality, it wasn't a coincidence. It was magic. You asked for a familiar. It heard your call and it's there. Welcome to magic. So that's usually how you find a familiar. Now, if you have a pet and then you become a witch and you're wondering if your animal is a familiar or not, there is a way to tell. And the way to tell is when you're doing magic, they are all over you. All right. They got to be involved. They usually want to be in the circle. They'll be curious about your altars. Yes, they will get up and knock them over. So if you do have cats that have a tendency to jump on tables and you're doing ritual, make sure your candles are safe and will not be knocked over and start a fire or ignite your animal's fur. Okay. So, of course, Cynthia, I hope you watch the end of it when you have a chance. Have a wonderful evening. So if you're looking to figure out whether or not your familiar is your current pet, just watch their stuff, their behavior during your magical moments. If you're doing ritual and they just want to lay in the middle of the thing, they're guarding you. They're your familiar. They'll also give you information too if all of a sudden they're really honed in on one certain part of the circle. It's a good place for you to have that moment of what's out there. So they do guard as well. So familiars not only help you with your magical practice, but they also protect you during your magical practice. Last time I had ritual and my dog Cookie was involved, She showed herself to be a familiar because the minute I called the circle, as I finished making my circle's boundary, right before I finished it, she shot into it and laid down, didn't move, didn't interrupt me, didn't nothing, just wanted to be in the circle. That's your familiar. They will usually help you with magic, but you will definitely know because they'll be drawn to energy. Healing. If I'm doing an amplified Reiki session in my apothecary, I have to force Cookie to go lay down, because if she had her way, the client would be petting her throughout the entire Reiki session so she can help too. But I don't want that kind of energy on my dog, because then I'd have to cleanse her and more work for me. No, thank you. Keep it simple and to the point, right? So, all right. So, are there any more questions from the viewers that we have? Yes, that's what I was going to do if there were no more questions. I was going to talk about the upcoming events. Yes, Cookie is a very good assistant. She is a very good assistant. She also, today she got in trouble, but she's a good listener most days. Today, not so much, but most days. I am proud of her, and she is good. In fact, she is helping me right now. All right, upcoming events. Woo, woo, come have some fun. Okay, tonight was one of our first ones. If this was popular and we get a lot of hits and we get a lot of views, I'm hoping to do it again in about a couple of months. But some things that I have set up so that we can do them right away. First one is happening next month. Here's the beautiful flyer that my business partner made for me, Shannon, the administrative goddess of all that runs SerenWitchery. Energetic warding. We will be having this class on July 8th. It'll be happening here at the shop if the broom fits. We'll be using the classroom downstairs. We'll be starting at 4 o'clock. The reason we're starting at 4 is because of the fact that the shop closes at 4, and that way I don't have to worry about customers. The cost is $45. This class is designed to teach you how to protect your energy from others around you. It'll also teach you how to separate your energy from others. We talked about that a little bit when we talked about being able to hear entities. So this would help you to be able to separate that stuff out. It can also help you to protect yourself from being bombarded by energies that that do stuff with us every day, like chores, going shopping, being with our family. I get a lot of people coming in right before there's a like Thanksgiving. What do you have for protection? Okay. With this class, you could go in and you wouldn't have to have, it's great to have extras. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But it's also nice to know that you're going to be able to control your universe because you have control of the energies bombarding you. Kat's question is, can we sign up at the door? Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, you can sign up at the door. It is $45 a person. Now, the time on the flyer says 4 to 8. That's a misprint on my part. I told Shannon that I was doing it from 4 to 8, but the last hour is for me to clean up. So it's really 4 to 7. But if it runs to 8, that's okay too. Okay. Especially if we have enough students. This is an interactive class, y'all. You're going to be throwing energy balls. You're going to be testing out your ability to receive as well as your ability to produce. Okay. And we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. We will be providing snacks. We know it is at about dinner time. So if you do have complications with your bodily system, such as diabetes, epilepsy, hypo blood sugar, where you need to keep it down or whatever, please make sure that you bring your own special snacks, but we will have stuff to munch on, and of course water and drinks as well. But that's $45, and it's here at If the Broom Fits. In August, the first weekend in August, if I'm remembering the date properly, is Pagan Pride in Eugene. SerenWitchery will be doing its debut at the Eugene Pagan Pride in August for this. So we are really excited about that. Unfortunately, we will not be attending any festivals this year because we were able to increase the size of our apothecary. That does also increase the debt of our rent space. So festivals, we may not be doing for a couple of years until we can get it more on the level. So in September, there will be a fall equinox ritual held by Finnan. That is in Vernonia. I'll put the link in the comments when I'm all done so you guys can go and see their information. On October 7th, here at If the Broom Fits Shop, we will be having the Season of the Witch Marketplace. Last year, we had about 300 attendees. Our backyard parking lot is all filled with vendors. So everything will be open, and we sure do hope you will come because it's going to be a really awesome thing. They've even were able to get a food vendor and porta potties to make sure that everybody could be taken care of while they were here. The following weekend is the weekend that I'm most excited about. And the reason I'm most excited about it is because this is the first time we're able to offer this retreat. This retreat is called Rediscovering Your Inner Goddess. It is held from the 13th to the 15th of October. The reason that I chose October 13th is because the day of Friday the 13th in old archaic times was the day that everyone celebrated their feminine divine. Everyone. So Friday the 13th is when we will start our feminine divine workshop. And what we will do is we'll be having meditations, really good food. I'm a really good cook. And so are the people that I get to volunteer and come and stay and help me out to cook. We'll be having food, workshops, meditations, quiet time, just reflections. When we're all done on Sunday afternoon, when you leave, you will be leaving with a mirror that you have decorated. So that helps you so that you can always reconnect with your inner divine, your inner goddess when you look into this mirror. I am also going to be the retreat. Oh, yes. Thank you, Shannon. Great reminder. This retreat is open to all experience levels, from I really want to know about this to I've been doing this for years, but I've lost contact with my goddess, my inner goddess. We are all divine beings, whether masculine or feminine. We are divine. So this is where you start learning about your feminine divine. It's a great place to start. So if this is all new to you, come on, let's have some fun. You'll have people of all different experience levels that you can talk to, because this will be very interactive. I'm very big on interactive events. The reason why is because I feel people take more away when they're actively involved. I learned that from my time as a board member in Oh Wow when I worked with them. This would be a good place to connect with different witches in the community. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just finding friends that are like-minded as well. Oh, you have problems with energy? Oh my God, I have problems with energy. I find a lot of people who take my energetic warding class as well as my inner goddess workshop and retreat. They make lifelong friends. As a matter of fact, the women who attended my first ever Rediscovering Your Inner Goddess retreat, they're all best friends. So this is a way to make community with people who aren't going to look at you like you're knucking futs. You know? So it's a great opportunity. If you check on my website, I do, Shannon and I both work on a newsletter that we try to get out as often as possible. Sometimes they'll happen with the seasonal changes or the Sabbats. So the next newsletter we should be putting out next week about-ish because it is summer solstice. It is Litha next week. It is the first day of summer, the longest day of the year. So if you keep an eye on that, it will also tell you of events that are happening in the community that I'm aware of, but that I may not be going to. But at least you know what's going on. You're very welcome, Kat. Oh, and one last momentary thing I wanted to introduce. Shannon and I both started taking herbology classes from an amazing practitioner by the name of Lady Katrina here in Portland. One of the things that we learned how to brew, witchy, is what we call Fumare Totalicus. What is it? It's fire cider. Okay. So you can see the red on the top here, and you can see the little star here on this label. This one has cinnamon added to the garlic and the onion and the turmeric and the horseradish and the ginger and the cayenne. So this has cinnamon in it. And then I have one with no cinnamon in it because I have a family member who has allergies to cinnamon. So I just wanted to make sure it was, usable for everybody. This one does not have the cinnamon in them. But we are back in stock. We have one bottle of the cinnamon Fumare Totalicus left. We have another batch getting started this week. And then we have 3 of the non-cinnamon. Yeah, we might have to make more cinnamon. We're going through it quick. Anyway, we also have gazing potions and gem elixirs and all sorts of stuff. So I really do hope that you guys will come in. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I am on every social media platform you can think of. There's a few that I am not on, but Shannon is, as SerenWitchery. So you will find our presence there. You can also email me at Anya, AINE, at SerenWitchery.com. Or if all else fails, call me, 503-999-9390. So I'm really grateful to all of the viewers that I had. I was so excited. I got up to 5 whole viewers. Woo, yeah. Magical number, 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. So pretty awesome. If you guys like this, please share it. The more views I get, the more often I will be able to do this ask anything type of thing. It will only last for an hour, but at least this way I can answer your questions. You guys can feel more comfortable when you come into my apothecary, and also going into other witchcraft supply stores as well, because you'll be a little bit more familiar with stuff that we have or offer, or other practitioners may offer. So witches, I hope that you have an amazing Wednesday night. Don't forget, the full moon is about 2 weeks away. So get ready for it. We have all sorts of stuff for you. 7 at one point, actually. Yes. So I hope that you guys have a blessed week. I look forward to a wonderful Litha. Happy Litha, my witches. I hope you have an amazing longest day of the year, and that all of your magical intentions are met. I'm at a loss for how to finish up, so I will take a page from my middle grandchild. When they don't know what to say and they don't know how to end, they just simply go, ta-da! See you later, witches.